Get it straight, Buster. I'm not here to say please. I'm here to tell you what to do. And if self-preservation is an instinct you possess, you better do it, and do it quick. I'm here to help. If my help's not appreciated, then lots of luck, gentlemen. If I'm curt with you, it's because time is a factor. I think fast, I talk fast. I need you guys to act fast if you want to get out of this. So, pretty please, with sugar on top. Listen to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
A third of the people love you, a third don't care about you, and a third hate you. So you concentrate on the third that love you and you go for it.
I think the greatest Achilles heel for leaders is they don't give themselves time to think.
So my journey is one of those, there are a lot of detours. There's a lot of going off on the side roads.
Thrive Out listeners, you're in for a treat. We're here with Jamal Mashburn,
Jesse Itzler,
the John Maxwell,
Jackie the Joke Man Martling, New York Rangers great Mike Richter,
Lisa Lampanelli,
Mary Carrillo.
Oh, how nice.
I'm actually going through the practice of being an entrepreneur.
Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and thrive loud.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
I love it.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a man that has been called one of today's leading leadership and marketing strategists. He works with C-suite, business owners and leaders, military generals, entrepreneurial unicorns, CEO2CEO Peer Groups, and YPO leaders across the globe. He is the author of more than 20 books translated into 21 languages. We're going to talk about that. 3 college graduate management textbooks, and among them 4 bestsellers. Thrive Loud listeners, the thought leader's leader, Dr. Jeffrey Magee.
Good day, sir. How are you? Doing great.
Oh, I am spectacular, coming to us from Las Vegas, Nevada. I got him to get up real early so we can have this call as we've recorded this. And I also joked with him as soon as we got together here that there might not be a man with more letters on his name than yourself. Let's do that fun for a second, because this is actually cool. Say all the letters that you have underneath each one of them so everybody knows what they are, because I'm putting it in the show notes.
I love you. Thank you. So CMC is Certified Management Consultant. CSP, Certified Speaking Professional. CBE, Certified Board Executive. And PDM, Professional Direct Marketer.
So with all these titles of things that you have with you and your experience, let's focus on, I want to do the now. What are you drilling into now from what you're seeing in your expertise as a leadership, specifically in that marketing strategy area? I want to hear what you're seeing and working on mostly today.
It's brilliant. So where I really drill into, Lou, is talent. And if you use the word talent as a macro denominator, then you can take that word in a various number of channels: talent development, talent management, talent acquisition, talent succession. What I'm seeing is happening in the global marketplace, and there's no right, wrong, good, bad about my next statement. It's just a reality point. So I love all the people who want to debate it, because their debate creates noise, confusion, and more opportunity for me. So the reality is we are now at a point where the centurions and baby boomers that pretty much have created the planet as we see it right now today, without commentary of good, bad, right, wrong, are all aging out of the marketplace. And what we see then with Generation X, Y is a significant number of them changed a lot of the kind of GPS of how we looked at talent, looked at people, looked at goals, looked at work ethic, etc. And what we actually had happen from about 2000 to 2010, market research shows about 32% of all the people in business leadership roles would be transitioning out and retiring. And between 2010 and 2020, which is right where we are now, another 32% of all the people in management leadership positions would be retiring out. So over the last 20 years, more than 60% of all the people that were in the thought leadership roles, management roles, supervisory roles, business ownership roles have all been transitioning out of that marketplace. So all the new people are coming in, and some of them are relooping, baby boomers and older generation X's that are coming back in the working place that may have retired early, what have you. But what we're really seeing as it comes down to talents, we have a tremendous number of people on the planet that have great intentions, good heart, want to work, but really have no freaking clue what the hell to do. So there's a massive vacuum for talent development at all levels. And so that's where I'm playing. And it's been quite interesting. Gallup Research actually did some findings. It's been backing up something I've been writing in my books and in my presentations and in my consulting for 30 years. It really is a wake-up call to where we are for talent and how do we thrive.
Jeff, I want to ask this question because this is right on the tip of my tongue here. To your point around this talent, there's also this imbalance of the gig economy for those that kind of are trying to explore and figure out like what to do, or they're doing lots of different things or do certain small jobs. And obviously traditional business and companies and well-established corporations, and they're trying to bleed them together. To your point, a lot of that talent, and there's some excellent talent out there, is kind of bouncing around and hopping through that. How do you connect the two together?
Very easy. First of all, let's unbundle what you said for your listeners. If you think about history, which unfortunately majority of people's brain cells on history is what's happened in the last couple of days. We are very malleable people on this planet. Most people are so naive that they can be sold a bag of crap and think they got, roses and diamonds. So when you talk about blending and stuff together, let's go back to the Industrial Revolution. Let's go back to the Information Revolution. Let's go back to the gig. Well, if we go back to gig, is it new? Is it old? I think you take a step to the side, and all business is evolution. 100 years ago, for the education of our new listeners and for the reminder of all of the veteran listeners, in the United States, as one point of reference, because the United States for the last 200 years, reality check, and for the next, probably foreseeable 100 years, is really the gold standard of how business on this planet is measured. In the business world, everyone speaks English. It's not a debate. We trade in U.S. currency. We set the tone for business. Everyone else tries to copy us. But this whole gig thing, really, if you peel it back, my answer to your question is this. All that we're doing is evolving. 100 years ago, the financial indicators of our country were measured off of businesses like Woolworths, Ben Franklin Five and Dime, Montgomery Ward's, and those are stores a lot of your listeners may have never frickin' heard of, and there's your clue. All the businesses today is the same thing as yesterday. It's just a different delivery system. So, for example, you're wearing clothes, I'm wearing clothes. You live in a home where there's probably carpet, you have a dishwasher, you have some sort of entertainment device, again, whether it's a stereo, a radio, Siri, or whoever she is. Those are dry goods in one way. So dry goods 100 years ago, everyone bought, and today we're buying them. All that Amazon is Sears and Roebuck, another company that's bit the dust. So all those companies we used to measure business off of are gone, and the new businesses we measure business off of are not new. They're just repackaged. Again, if you took the Sears catalog from 50 years ago, that really is all that Amazon is. So if Sears had the foresight to recognize this, then they would be the Amazon today. They would still be there, but they did not evolve. So I've now used that word 7 times where the marketplace is. All that gig is an evolution to what already is out there. There really is nothing new. Bitcoin's new. No, it's freaking not. It's called a barter system, folks. Wake up. Right. So there's really nothing new. We're just evolving. And how do you blend them is the natural evolution of business. Is everything going to go into this gig, into this e-universe? Hell no. You're still going to need to get from point A to point B, whether that's an electric car, whether it's George Jetson's jet, or whether it's a Tesla, or whether it's a 30-year-old vehicle, doesn't matter. So people need to not get so caught up in the hysteria of these things, in the emotional, excitement of things, and stay focused and stay in their lane. Success is really doubling down on what you know. If you have a viable delivery, then where's the market or the new market going to be? And that's where success is. That's what I've been advocating for 30 years. Nothing's changed. It's the same models.
I'm going to jump in and play a little vocabulary question for you. You mentioned early on that a certain generational component is hitting retirement. I'm going to challenge and say that I don't think that word exists.
I think in the future you're right. No, I think the ability for people that are under the age of 50 today to actually retire is going to be a whole new phenomenon. I think some people don't have in their mindset a desire to even want to retire. Perfect up. But I think the economy has driven in such a way that no one thinks long term. I mean, I'm 56, and I think of the people I work with that are in their 20s or 30s or 40s, their 60s and their 70s. And today people don't budget to have, let's say, where you're going to live, whatever that is, a tiny house or a McMansion, I don't care, and have it paid off by the time they're in their early 50s, and have a nice car and have savings where they can, then budget what can come out of my investment vehicles on a monthly sort of retirement paycheck to live the rest of my life? And I think the reason retirement's gone is no one's thinking that. And we also have a huge generation. Here's your other reality check. Yeah. We have a huge generation of people that might be in their 30s-ish that their retirement vehicle, sadly to say, is when their parents croak. I'll inherit all this money and then I might be able to retire. Because no one's budgeting. Everyone is living paycheck to paycheck in your gig economy, folks, and in your regular economy. I mean, the statistics have not changed in the past 20 years. This is not a Democrat or Republican. It's a reality. The statistics have not changed. Most people are literally 2 paychecks away from being on the street. I mean, no one saves. No one has liquid cash. No one has the ability to be able to double down and take care of themselves, which goes back to how do you thrive? I think a lot of people thriving can be defined a lot of ways. I think a lot of people are not really thriving. What they really do, and they're simply surviving.
Let's talk about moving from surviving to thriving. Okay, so a lot of the work you're doing is helping these companies do this. I guess I want to see the most common problem, and we'll keep it to talent if you want to. I want to hear the most common problem you're seeing as it relates to helping them fix the problem. They would need Dr. Jeffrey to come on in, bring him in, and help in this solution. What are you seeing more often than not?
Great question. Actually, there are 5 specific answers to that one because that is exactly what I write, teach, talk, and work and coach on. So again, for your listeners, you're about to get an MBA, to the factor of
more letters.
Right
now. God, Dr. Jeffrey's giving us more letters. Here we go.
There you go, baby. So what it comes down to are 5 things. Number 1, for any person or business to thrive, number 1, you have to have a strategy. So strategy is the same thing as if you're going to go get investment money from a bank or a venture capitalist, you're going to say, show me your business plan. So what's your strategy? What's your game plan? How are you going to go about doing whatever it is you want to accomplish? So right off the top, the majority of people do not have any strategic game plan. They're busting about working hard every day. But if you start asking them, why are you doing it? And if you do this, how's it connect to this, they really quickly start to look at you like, whoa, wait a second. I've never really thought about it that way. So 1 is strategy. Strategy goes to number 2, ops. All of your operational systems, all your operational procedures, all your operational technologies, all of the tools and resources that you need to execute your strategy comes out number 2. So where the breakdown typically happens in businesses is that there's 5 places it breaks down because of these 5 things you don't have. So 1, it starts with strategy, or if they have that, then it goes to number 2. Operationally, people are not doing what they need to do because they don't see that it connects to the strategy. So whether that's using a CRM system, whether that's in essence, following up on things, whether it's, assembly line, doing the right thing at the right time, etc. Number 3 then is going to be in essence the behaviors. So behaviors are where most parents start a conversation with their therapist, their religious elder, their friends, their neighbors, their life coach, or whatever. When they talk about, my kids are not doing this, or I'm struggling to get my kids to do these things. You talk about, Lou, one of the fascinating things you're recognizing is how fast your kids are growing up. Well, as they're growing up, you're seeing them do things. Again, that's the word behavior. Or you wish they would do more of something. Those are the words behaviors. In businesses, it's the same thing. People are not doing this or they're not doing that. How do I get them to do this? How do I get them to change? It's always behaviors. Well, if your behaviors are connected to some sort of a system, which is ops, that would hold them accountable, then you would have better behavior. So a lot of the speaking and training world fixates on the 3rd word, and that's why a good amount of the speaking and training world is actually ineffective. It works for about 24 hours. Everyone's excited, but it falls off because we're not showing them the right behaviors reinforced by the right operational tools to help us to execute, and it's not a part of what the game plan of the company is all about, strategy. So those first 3 are kind of the marquee to answer your question around talent or business and where people are bringing me in or where they're bringing in people, period. Whether it is a lead accounting consulting firm, in the world, which is part of your pedigree from 20 years ago, they're bringing them in for those reasons. But the last 2 words are really what makes the difference between survive and thrive. And these next 2 words are very politically incorrect. So I'm just warning your listeners now so that no one blows up and their head spins off their shoulders.
Let's hear it.
And this is what gets everyone in trouble. So the 4th word is basically execution. At the end of the day, someone has to shut up and go do the work. You can turn on TV right now, no matter what your political views are, doesn't matter. Turn on CNN, turn on Fox. Within 30 seconds, you'll see everyone bitching about everyone else who's not doing something or doing wrong something. But usually the ones who are yelling the last about what someone did or didn't do are the very people that themselves are doing nothing. Execution, are doing nothing. Everyone wants someone else to do the work. Margaret Thatcher had a great comment about socialism. Socialism is great until you run out of everyone else's money. And that's what execution comes down to. Why do I need to work, Daddy, when you'll do it? Why do I need to work when the boss will do it? So execution is critically important. So in our society, instead of celebrating those that execute, doing benchmark analysis off those that execute, so we all can execute more effectively, what we do is we always kick these people in the kneecaps and throw them under the bus and try to find fault in, something that's bad in your closet from 10 or 20, 30 years ago, instead of just shutting up and executing. And then if that word is not politically incorrect enough, then the last word of the 5 is accountability. Again, you have to have layers of accountability. So when you look at a successful person or organization, Lou, and for our listeners, accountability, here's how you know you have a thriving business. So if you're a business owner or leader, here's your clues. You know you have a thriving business when accountability starts with self-accountability. People hold themselves accountable. You're going to have thriving people. The second layer of accountability then is going to be systems of accountability, which goes back to my word operational. So what systems do you have in place to help you to hold yourself accountable? The third level of accountability would be peer-to-peer, peer accountability, where people help each other and hold each other accountable. It's not I'm tattletelling on you. It's not that I'm going to be a whistleblower. It's not that I'm going to toss you under the bus, but we help each other. So it's self-accountability, system accountability, peer accountability, customer accountability. It can be then at the end of the assembly line then is boss accountability. When in a family unit, the parent has to hold everyone accountable. You have survive, not thrive. In a business, when supervisors, bosses, or owners are the first gatekeepers to holding everyone accountable, you're never going to have a thriving organization because the boss is always last on this list in thriving organizations. So there's your template for the 5 clues of where I see most businesses need coaches, consultants, training, advisors, board members to help them to thrive and move forward.
Dr. Jeffrey Magee, get the man some oxygen. He did it. He pulled through it, all of that stuff. I love it. And for him, this is way early in the morning. And obviously, it sounds like this is who you are all the time and you love talking about it. I want to talk about you. You've written 20 books. Before we go into my second question of this, I want to ask a general question. You speak, you consult, you write, you strategize. I probably can break them into the 5 things that you just broke out. But on those things that you do, if you get to pick one of the things that you do each and every day, which is your favorite? That one thing, I get to do one of those 4. What is Dr. Jeffrey picking to do?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Everything you said is a byproduct to me of writing because the exercise of writing causes an individual. So I would challenge every listener, and it's not about writing a book, but just start writing. The exercise of writing allows you to look at a train of thought and put it into its logical, chronological, psychological order. So that causes you to have to frickin' stop and think. The exercise of writing then allows you to drill into what do you really know? What is your unique intellectual property versus just what's the rhetoric in your head and your internal dialogue that you want to vomit onto a sheet of paper? So that doesn't help someone. So if I'm going to go into those other elements that you just talked about in terms of coaching or consulting or speaking, whether it's a keynote at a huge convention or training a large group or a small group or working with a board, those are all byproducts of me getting clarity of my train of thoughts and focus and recognizing what do I really know from life experiences, because that's how you help people. What do I really know from my certifications, because that's an exercise. What do I really know from any accomplishments, my bodies of work? So writing is probably the one thing I like the most, and sometimes it's what I dread the most. But writing is the exercise by which I become more effective. If you talk to a pro athlete, it is the practice. It's the things they do when no one's around that helps them to be more effective when they're in practice with their peers and or when they're performing. So in any profession, vocation, you have to really drill down to what's the elementary building blocks to what you do. And for me, it's writing. I think it's a powerful question you've just posed.
Jeff, 21 languages. The question I'm going to ask here is, what's the one that you were most surprised that it got reprinted in? I don't think I can name 15 languages, let alone 21.
Probably several. Slovakian, Polish were some languages that surprised me. Some of my books were translated into. The ones that have actually generated some massive income have been Spanish and German.
Oh, great.
So yeah, it's quite interesting to see which books catch on in other languages.
Jeff, you are by nature, all the things that you do, a thriving person. I wanted to ask this question to you, which I ask just about all the guests on Thrive Loud. And that is, when you're having not such a great day, you're a little off, your game isn't totally firing on all cylinders, what practice do you seek or what individual do you seek out to help get yourself back on the thriving track?
Wow. I think there are some very distinct and definite answers to that. One, I go back to the true legends of my craft. It would be going back and reading or listening to Earl Nightingale, Og Mandino, Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill. I mean, those people really had the foundational setting to where we are for this last century when it comes to creative thought processes. I can go academic and talk about some researchers and academic names, but those would not have as much of an impact to most of our listeners today. But it's those elements. It's listening to jazz music. It is just going for a walk or putting the roof down in a car and going for a drive for a couple hours to clear my head. Back in the older days, it would be going out and running. I used to be a marathon runner. So, when I find myself in those holes, it really is. You've got to unplug from where you are and go plug into something completely different to give yourself a chance to, if nothing else, internally, mentally vent.
That's great. And I love that. Everyone loves the movement piece, but the jazz was really cool. Any performers in particular that you're a big fan of?
All of them. I mean, I grew up playing the trumpet, so for me to name a name would not be doing justice to that list. There's artists today and there's artists from the past, but just crank on the jazz and listen to the energy and the story and the emotion and the power, and then you start to realize, hey, you got a lot of creative juice inside you, so quit bitching and start working.
Jeffrey, I've got a question because you mentioned some of these the great names in the past that either you go read or you go follow up with. And obviously, as a speaker and a CSP, you've done a lot of speaking. And a lot of speakers have something that those who are not professional speakers don't know about, but there's a term. It's actually called a speaker crush. And it's kind of like you see somebody on stage and it's someone that you look forward to. So I want to kind of know from the days ago, someone that you looked up and admired as someone on stage, like, wow, that is someone I love the way they perform, and maybe to somebody newer today that you've seen. Give me a balance of some of your favorites to watch speak their word on the stage.
Great question. So past tense, I had the opportunity, the experience, the honor of getting to know and work with Zig Ziglar and with Harvey Mackay and with former General Colin Powell. So those would be three references from the past, and all of them have written for a magazine. I publish Professional Performance Magazine. Two of them written forwards to my books, but their stagecraft was smooth and fluid, and their stories were always not just impactful, but appropriate to their message in the audience. And one day I kind of flipped a switch in my head where I still was excited to listen and watch them. But I started becoming more of a student of their stagecraft and not just being enamored by them speaking in front of me. And I started realizing that they worked the stage with just subtle eye movements. So if they're on one side of the stage and they were talking to the audience, they would always be able to kind of glance and know where they were going to be in a couple seconds. So it was never like they were just working the stage and walking. They nailed it. Zig Ziglar was great at this. That he was famous for kind of leaning down on one kneecap and talking about seeing you at the top. And one day I started realizing if I reversed that videotape where he was going to come over and kneel in a couple of minutes, he tagged it with his eye 30 seconds before, kind of thing. And so I started recognizing people, they worked the audience, so it never was like they were just talking to one person or one section. And they were just great with their messages. And their messages were always clean and safe, but very directed, calls to action. If I jump to today, that's a very dangerous question you pose, because if I answer that one, I'm going to leave someone out and I'm in trouble. So I would answer it another way. I think, the people that I most admire listening to today, because this will eliminate about 99.9% of everyone who opens up their mouth in public and should never do so, is that there's a small percentage of people actually have their own intellectual property, their own stories, their own message. And those are the ones I really respect and love to listen to. I don't want to have someone of unknown stature or public recognized stature start to talk, and then all of a sudden you can start finishing their stories, their jokes, and their message, because it's not theirs. It's very disingenuous. There's a lot of people out there today that are great at marketing, great at selling, but they fail miserably on the deliverable from people from your and my perspective that are CSPs, as an example, and know the craft and know the industry and know the messages.
Great message and great feedback here. Let's do the admin part here, Jeff. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, things we can plug. We'll put it all in the show notes, but it always sounds better when they hear it from you.
You're too awesome, and I appreciate that. And again, that was not the reason why I'm here today. I was here today just to share ideas with your listeners. Yes. So hopefully we have done that, and we've tickled their mind to think differently than where they were when they started. If you want to know more about me, there's two places the listeners can go. One is to jeffreymagee.com, and that's spelled JEFFREY. Magee, jeffreymagee.com. That'll take them to my business portal of the both online LMS systems I have for self-development. There's one in personal mastery, one in sales mastery, all of my training programs, all of my keynotes, my webinars, my vlogs, my blogs, my articles, all the things are there, and some public seminars I do throughout the year. They can find stuff there. Another place they can go is to my media company, which is Professional Performance Magazine.com, professionalperformancemagazine.com. I published for 24 years a magazine where we bring together pretty much like what you're doing here in this audio format on your podcast. We bring together phenomenal personalities in industry, sports, athletics, politics, cross-section globally of people to share their mental DNA on, again, same similar topic of thriving. How do you thrive, accelerate, succeed, be more successful? We've done interviews with the last three presidents of the United States, for example, and Richard Branson's. We've done 2 books together, and he writes for the magazine. So that's another place your listeners can go to get more information.
Awesome. Now I want to have some fun. Not that we haven't been having fun from the very beginning, Jeff. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is one of those things where I'm always curious as it relates to great thought leaders and obviously great speakers. And I've been asking this question of speakers, and I want to hear the biggest technical mess up that's ever happened. Let me just give an example of where this came from. Certain speaker who I will leave their name out shared a story recently that when they came to the stage, they went up and headed toward a podium-like structure, and there was a very unique design of the stage, and literally the gentleman fell through a hole in the stage and went straight down to the bottom. It doesn't have to be that extreme. I want to hear something that's maybe happened, technical issue, problems in the building, physicalities. We all love to hear it because it makes our lives so much more fun so that we hear behind the scenes.
Oh, my God. So I'll give you 3 quick ones. One, I'm in Birmingham, UK, England, doing some speaking, and the fire alarm system kept going off. So the first time we all leave the building. The second time we kind of slowly left the building. The third time we realized that this is a technical problem in their hotel, so we just plowed through it. And it was like about every 30 to 40 minutes for 6 hours, it would go off. Right when you would let your guard down thinking it's not going to go off again, boom, it would go. So that was craziness. Another time I'm in the southern part of the United States, and there was a large Baptist choir that was practicing next door. So that was a very entertaining day to work around that one. And then probably another one was one of the leading global IT companies on the planet that major corporations spend bazillions of bucks with, did a major keynote for them a while back, and they had all of the speakers fly in a day early. They paid you double the fee, basically. They've had everyone fly in a day early and go through your entire program as a dry run with their tech people and their senior, kind of meeting planner people. 1, for continuity, 2, to make sure everything, went good, and 3, really to just check to make sure that they weren't going to veto and kick you out of the building the day before you went on. And then the next day was live, and the next day I was the only speaker that was not IT dependent to do my speaking engagement. I guess that's why I'm a member of the National Speakers Association and the CSP. So it was interesting because the IT continuously did not work all day long, and that's what this company is known for. So everyone who needed their PowerPoints open their mouth was screwed.
Love it. Signature question on the show, Jeff, your all-time favorite movie?
Hands down, Wizard of Oz with Gene Wilder. Best movie ever. If you are in management, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a success-oriented person, you've got to watch that movie. It is the best movie that talks about business, succession, planning, crisis management. Every little vignette is a learning story, and basically the movie starts and ends with succession issues. So I love that movie. That's mine.
That is a good. I love unique. I love when we get the total off the charts ones here. And your last bit, Dr. Jeffrey Magee is walking in a room. He's bringing up the energy. There's a song that kind of goes. It's almost like your jam, your theme song that goes with you. Dr. Jeffrey, what is that song that you have that is your beat that keeps you rolling?
That is so dangerous. There's lots of songs, but if I'm trying to bring people together, I think, We Are Family is a great rocking song. You got to get the energy up. So there's your beating energy, and it talks about bringing people together. So there's another one, but there's a ton of songs that sometimes I've walked into, sometimes I use, but, normally that's not where I play in the music world, but that would probably be the one I'd throw out, catching me off guard like that.
The thought leader's leader, Dr. Jeffrey Magee, truly bringing things together and bringing it home. Thanks for coming on Thrive Loud today. Truly an honor on this end to have you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate what you're doing.
You got it, my friends. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.